The weather's starting to change, and you know what that means? It'll probably change back again next week. We're heading back to Costco this week in part one of a two-parter to check out some red wine from the Kirkland Signature label. Welcome to The Wine Fool. I'm Scott. I rate wines based on the drinker, not on a 100-point scale created by people trying to sell wine. If you find this video helpful, I hope you'll give it a like, maybe share it with a friend, or even subscribe. That really helps out the channel. This week we're looking at 3 red wines from Costco. During my last visit, I picked up a total of 6 wines. 3 happen to be from Europe and 3 are from the US. This week we're looking at 2 bottles from Italy and 1 from France. First up, we're looking at the 2021 Kirkland Signature Toscana. This Super Tuscan comes in at 13.5% and was $13.99. Super Tuscans, which rolls off the tongue a lot easier than Toscana Indicazione Geografica Tipica, are high-quality Italian wines from Tuscany that don't follow the traditional rules for making wines in the region. Instead of using only the local grapes like Sangiovese, winemakers can mix in Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, or even Syrah. These create rich, full-bodied wines that are enjoyed for their unique flavor profiles. As always, I've had these sitting out for about 20 minutes to a half hour. You should always allow your reds to breathe a little. If you don't have an aerator or you don't want to decant, simply pour the glass ahead of time. Swirl it around in the glass, let it sit for a little bit. That should be plenty to give it some time to breathe. You'll see a big difference in a bold red like this one when you do allow it some time to breathe. Per the label, this is a fresh and delicate red wine showing flavors of wild herb, ripe cherry, and raspberry. An elegant wine supported by firm tannins and a velvety smooth finish. The color is like moving from that purple into garnet, especially towards the edges. Getting that herbaceousness that it spoke of. Raspberries, red fruits, ripe cherry. Cheers. First sip of a red's always tough to tell. Good firm tannins, like it said. A little bit of brightness. This is a 2021, so only 3 years old. This could easily sit for a little bit. Could stash this away and this would still, some of the tannins would probably have toned down a little bit over the years. Bold, definitely bold. Wine Fool level 2, definitely a more adventurous red. This isn't for the inexperienced. This is somebody who's experienced with red wine. They're gonna enjoy this. They're gonna enjoy what this brings. Something a little bit different, a little bit more, less rounded than your California Cab. Something just a little bit more acidic. This would go well as something hearty, like a stew. Something just, that's got a little bit of fat to it. I feel like I always say you could have this with a steak. You could have this with a steak. But to me, this almost seems like a beef stew. Something rich on the palate. Because the acidity in this is really going to cut through nicely, really as a palate cleanser between bites. Really enjoyable. $13.99. It's again, I think of these as a great way of exploring varietals and wine styles that you might not, if you walked into your local store and looked for a Toscana, you're not going to find one for $14. Is this the highest representation of a Toscana? No, but it's a good representation in the sense of it's got all the characteristics of a Toscana, and if you like it, that gives you the avenue to explore a little bit more expensive, a $25 bottle to see the difference. And if you don't like it, you're only out 14 bucks. Next, we have a 2022 Vacqueyras from the Rhone Valley in France. This is 14.5% alcohol by volume and was $11.49. This wine is a French GSM blend, which means it's a combination of 3 different varietals: Grenache, Syrah, and Mourvedre. In this instance, it's an 80-10-10 blend. While the label doesn't have tasting notes, it does suggest decanting to release its full potential, or cellaring, as the blends from this region age particularly well. Let's give it a try. Good color, getting more into that garnet compared to the Toscana. And that could, again, comes down to the grapes that are being used. Plum, cherry, blackberry. Cheers. Softer tannins. Not quite as firm as the last wine. So you're not getting quite that sharpness, the biting of the strong tannins from the Toscana. To me, it feels lighter bodied than the Toscana. I'm not getting good flavor on the palate. And by that, I just mean I'm not getting anything that I'm like, ooh, this is interesting, makes me want to keep drinking more. Again, wine full level 2, hard to recommend this one. It's a great price point. It's from a great region. It's got, it's a great blend. I'm just not feeling this one. It's leaving me a little bit flat. The fruit is kind of missing from it. The flavor profile is kind of muddled. It doesn't, nothing really stands out of any interest. Again, it's a great bargain, $11.49 for a French GSM. Hard to beat. I'd rather spend a few bucks more and get something that I know that I can find in my local store with some help. I know I could find a bottle that's probably way better than this. Would aging this help it? I don't think so, because there's nothing, the tannins aren't particularly strong. You're gonna lose that fruit, which I think it's kind of lacking already. It's a 2022. It could go a few more years, I guess. I wouldn't put it past 5 years. I don't know if I would want to drink this after 5 years. I could be wrong. Yeah, it's just my opinion. Again, at that price point, is it bad wine? No, I just don't find it particularly interesting. And that's okay. That's why we do this, to see whether or not this is worth the journey. For me, it takes an hour to get these wines. If the Costco is right next door, run around and pick one up and see for yourself. Again, at that price point, hard to complain about it. Just not my thing. Lastly, this week we have a 2020 Kirkland Signature Barolo DOCG. This is 14% alcohol by volume and was $19.99. While this is the highest price point of the lot, I challenge you to go to your local store and find a Barolo for $20. Barolo is one of my favorite wines. I actually just had one last night. We broke one out. It was a 2018. It was delicious. It probably could have sat in the cellar for another 10, 15 years and been magnificent. But sometimes you just gotta keep filming with your cat. Kitty. In the past, we actually tried the 2019 Kirkland Signature Barolo in an episode that we filmed this time last year. My comments at the time were that it could use a few more years in the bottle to mellow out the tannins. Ironically, the label on this year's bottle has the same tasting notes as last year's bottle. So there's a little copy pasting going on there. I hope it's not the same. I hope it doesn't taste the same. It should taste a little bit different. Obviously, the notes may still be the same. Notes of vanilla and rose petal on the nose, black currant and licorice on the palate. They also mention that it's great for long-term aging. So color-wise, definitely more into that garnet area. Vanilla and rose petal on the nose. I haven't smelled enough rose petals, apparently. Okay. I'm getting the vanilla. I'll have to smell more rose petals sometime soon. Cheers. Good strong tannins, dry. drying my mouth out. This is the beginning of a great wine. At $20, I would say grab a couple of these, stash them away. These wines are the kind of wines, a Barolo is the kind of wine that will last 5, 10, 15 years and only change in really good ways so long as you're keeping it steady temperature, 65 or less, preferably, out of the sunlight. This is something that could really evolve nicely over time. $20, really hard to not recommend this. Having tasted that 2018 last night and knowing that that is something that would have, gone on to bigger and better things, this is in the same boat. Very similar. It's Barolo. It's from Italy. it's DOCG, which is that top tier level of Italian. That's their rating for not just the best. That it's the best of the best. That's their top. Area of. It's the best grapes in the best process, and it should be the best wines. I dare you to go to any of your local, wine shops and try and find a Barolo for $20. I think I've seen them for $30. It's not a huge difference, but if you can get something similar for $20, that's pretty damn good. Smokiness on the palate, really pleasant, really enjoyable. Yeah, I can't recommend this one enough. So there we have 3 more reds from Kirkland Signature label. Some hits, some misses, pretty good in general. Again, kind of like what I talked about earlier, this allows you to sort of explore without breaking the bank. These are bottles of varietals or blends that you would normally be paying upwards of $30, $40 to get a somewhat decent bottle of that. Sometimes even then, you're not getting a great bottle at that price point. So, again, this allows you, that Wineful Level 2 person, to say, hey, I want to try these. I've got this venue I can go to and try all of these different, and not really go crazy. I can get all of these for under $50. Again, I dare you to try and find 3 bottles of these varietals for less than $50 at a local store. The challenge is on. That being said, all of these are also if you do find yourself buying into these varietals, not necessarily the Kirkland brand, but any type of these are all age-worthy. These will all be wines that will improve over time, where you'll see those tannins come down. The fruit, if you've got a wine that's really strong in fruit, strong in tannins, the fruit will come down. It'll start to get replaced by other tertiary flavors. So it changes, and that's the joy of wine, is that it changes, it evolves over time. And that it's really a fun thing to experience. If you're curious about some other wines that can be age-worthy, check out the link that I'm going to put up here. My next video will have 3 more Kirkland Reds, but this time from the US. Until next time, stay foolish, and cheers to drinking better wine.